This season is incredibly messed up. I don't know what's going on this season. And I think a lot of people are going to have their complaints because it's obviously a much shorter season. So to give context, when we originally planned out this season ends, we wanted to make sure that Mexico had a major on both sides, and we knew that Delfino Maza was happening at the time. So we had the season go to S Factor, and then have the second one end at around Delfino Maza. Unfortunately, with Delfino Maza moving over, Mexico lost its other majors, so at this point we had to do some changes, but that's not the part that's going to be weird. Or not weird, but more so the thing that I don't think people are going to be prepared for. And I firmly believe this is going to be a much more Japan-centric ranking than we've ever seen before. And I am a bit worried about the perception of that, but if you look at the current TTS and what's been going on, you'll pretty quickly understand why. So, right off the bat, without even looking at future events, obviously Japan has had more events in its major categories compared to the other scenes. And while NA has had some pretty big events that are going to have impact rankings, there's one thing that makes it not great for North America, and that's out of the 8 majors so far that they've had this season, 1, 2, 3 of them are invitational majors. Now, don't get me wrong, for a time period like this, invitationals are very useful for giving the ranking team or the ranking algorithm head-to-head data that happens in these 5 months that might have not happened. It gives us a lot of top player head-to-heads, and that helps sort out the top echelon. But the problem with these kind of events is that it's so limited in the rest of the data, and that when NA hosts a lot of majors that aren't open bracket, it means that the players who get ranked are mainly going to be the ones who are the top players who already are doing well at these open bracket majors and then get to figure out their head-to-heads at these invitationals. So when 3 of them are invitationals, and even if we look at B pluses, like Lax Rivals and Coinbox IRL2 are also invitationals that are going to be the next largest events on the tournament tiering system. So that's another 2 that are going to be pretty big events for North America that just aren't that high up. And then on top of that, if we look at some of these tournaments, say Supernova, where the crossover was high with international talent, even though NA took the top 3 spots, when 5 of those top 8 go to Japan and they're beating your other players, that's not great for your region. It's not. It's going to mean that Japan is consistently going to, they're coming over and winning, and then when your players go over to Japan and don't meet the expectations, are finding the wins over your players, and then they're also finding wins on the Japanese players, but then North American depth aren't beating the top Japanese players who come and invade them, or very few do, and the few that do get ranked because they're also probably have other wins to add on to those. And then on top of that, a lot of these majors being invitationals means that there's less opportunities for North American talent to beat other North American top players. And when they only go to the invitationals and some of these majors, it's not great optics for even the opportunities for the players in their own region to find wins on their own top players. And that just creates its own funnel of problems where the accessibility of even getting to face them is tougher. So now you end up with this problem with either Japan is beating you on your home turf, like Supernova, or Japan is beating you on home turf and no one else is really there to defend, like Don't Park on the Grass, with Willie Money being the only person, and that gave him the opportunity to do so, but the fact that no other NA top player was there means that you're just also giving Japan more prestige in their ranks. And don't even get me started on Europe, because Europe is in a whole new weirder situation where they haven't had a player come over to the States to make the success that needed to be to bring the whole region up. Gluttony has been struggling, or not even just the States, but internationally in general, because Gluto has been struggling to find that kind of top wins, or didn't do too well when he went to Delta 9. And then Crepes LA came to Supernova and had a really good showing at 17th at the tournament, but that was his only, like, it was his first chance to really showcase that, since he became the best player in the country. And the lack of opportunities that have been for Europe, where players aren't coming to them and it's hard for them to get out to other players, has definitely made it a bit tougher to fit them in the top 50 of the algorithm. I feel like it's what I feel like is going to happen. What do they say? They say Europe the country. My bad. Europe the continent, the region. Sorry, I've been talking for a long time at this point. I'm hoping, well, actually, to further the point, Delfino Mazza wasn't just the major that Mexico was going to qualify through, but it was also a major where Gluto and Siski and I think a few other top EU players were planning on going to. So then that opportunity also going away hurts them also, because that major where they could have faced other top North American players and potentially find some wins isn't happening. The last chance for any of EU to like get a substantial increase overall in rank for players to succeed is Gluto doing well at Lax Rivals, which I don't know the format of that event, so I don't know what's going to happen there. And then whatever EU player wins the Coinbox IRL, and I personally hope it's Crepe or Siski, because I think they're the two players who could make a solid case for top 50 this season for EU, but just didn't have the NA opportunity, or just didn't have a strong enough one when they did go. I'm happy that they have, at the start of next season, GSM having a bunch of international players going. I think that's going to be a great thing for them to prove to defend their home turf, because they obviously have good players. It's just, I think their limited opportunities means when they do come over, they're either A, not used to the environment as some of the others who frequently do travel, or B, when they do flounder their opportunity, it's hard sometimes for the next one to come by because it's a lot harder for them to travel. I do think there are really good players in Europe. It's just, it's a lot tougher than it is for other regions because they either aren't flown out as frequently as, say, Japanese players, or just don't have players coming to their region like North America or Japan does.